Some houses aren't built to keep the world out. They're built to see who dares to come back in. You'll forgive me, I hope, for beginning at the edge of things. One does not stride straight up to a hill like that, not even in memory, without circling it first, testing the ground, eyeing the tree line, measuring the slope. I've told myself for years that I am no coward. It is only a habit of carefulness, a scholar's tick. And yet the breath goes thin in me whenever I think of the porch at sundown. The smell of sap and wet bark. The hush that falls when we turned our lamps away from the windows. You remember what I told you once over coffee, that some houses are not shelters, but instruments. Well, this was that sort of house. No one ever said who built it. The best we could manage were folk distances. A day past the third ravine, where the hill breaks to clay, near the ring of ash trees. The place rose from the knuckle of a small slope, the trunks around it clasped like parishioners. Its walls were sawn logs, planed so smooth the grain shone under a fingernail. The roof wore bark shingles, laid with the economy of someone who counts not coins, but winters. Polished branch pillars upheld the porch, like bones stripped of all but function. In the glass, true blown panes, you could catch your face, as crisp as a winter pond catches sky. Poor materials, yes, but handled with a care that suggested a craft older than poverty. There was no path to it, no line of use. The ground kept springing back, erasing our footsteps. There was no privy, no lean-to, no shed for a spade. No one had ever seen the inside. No one lived there. And yet, weekly, we cleaned it. Cult is what the filings called us. I've read them since. It's amusing, if amusement can still find a perch in me. How the mind, reaching for explanation, chooses the oldest hook on the wall. We were not counters of days, nor gloaters over sulfur. Our talk did not sharpen itself on apocalypse. We spoke only of maintenance, grain direction, sap stains, the right oil for branch pillars in damp weather. We were not waiting for the end. We were keeping a thing from fraying. It was devotion as housekeeping, reverence as routine. Daniel was our leader. I can see your expression. Everyone says that about their monster. He wasn't mad. But listen. Daniel did wickedness with the calm of a man steadying a vase. I won't excuse that. Still, madness is a ragged edge, and he was all straight lines. Soft voice, exact hands, a habit of thanking you while you were still lifting the bucket. He scorned money, sent back the more grotesque offerings that gather around a certain sort of authority, and stayed married to the same woman he had married before the house found him. On Wednesdays she baked. The children knew the day by the butter sweet on the air. No, what was unbalanced was not Daniel, but his axis. He tilted entirely toward that house. He found it, backpacking, he said, in the years when his beard was redder and the mountain paths less cut. It drew me, he would tell us, and a change would pass over him like lamplight passing over varnish. That glow. Oh, you think I romanticize. But I was there, slid across the planes of his face. Whenever he spoke of entering, he never listed what he saw. He didn't have to. We watched the light. We believed, because we could see belief, measurable as a pulse. He started the preservation community soon after. The officers later called it a sex cult, which is like naming an illness by the fever alone. There were many births, that much is true. It was arithmetic, not ardor. More hands meant more care. By the time I came along, coupling wasn't a romance, but a ledger. Pairings arranged to keep the blood from folding in on itself. Quotas per year, charts and corrections. The result was a steady stream of children, sorted into 3 necessary trades: cleaners, gardeners, and the offered. Sorting was done 10 days after birth, under a stand of trees whose shade felt older than the rest of the forest. Daniel would sit until stillness took him. He might decide quickly, or he might listen for hours. Once he listened an entire day. I like to attend. There's my weakness, I suppose. I have never resisted the theater of deliberation. When he named the role, the right followed. For the cleaners, darkness. For the gardeners, silence. The offered were kept until later. Nursed thicker than the rest, watched over, steered away from words and signs, and the books we never had. You flinch. I'm glad you do. I will not spell the hurt. I will only tell you that Daniel's methods left marks you could not miss, and functions you could not regain. I was a self-selector, born deaf, meant for plants and earth. That mercy spared me at least the performance of being chosen. We lived split. Cleaners by voice, gardeners by hands. Our schools, such as they were, followed suit. Soil pH and pruning for us. For them, lessons given by sound alone. We watched each other without meeting. 2 halves of a sentence that never shared a verb. Every week, 20 names from each bowl. baths at sunset, anointing with the bright smear from Daniel's forearm. The climb. The cleaners went one by one into the dark interior. The gardeners, lamps turned low, tended the slope. They warned us not to look in the windows. Warnings given to children come lacquered in the sheen of implication. You cannot help but rub at them. I wish I could tell you we were noble and obeyed. We were not. We tested rules for the chime of hollowness, and hearing it, we laughed. We told stories to fill the sealed rooms. Patty said she had slipped inside and found a forest larger than the forest, a ceiling that passed for sky. She gave us rivers running through halls and trunks bigger than chimneys. We believed. No, I believed, because belief is a more precise instrument than doubt at 14. The night I remember clearest, Nora and I had been chosen. We were born the same week and had learned the habit of joking as a counterweight to our assignments. At sunset, we were washed. She flicked water at me and I at her. We took the anointing with straight faces and then broke them into grins when backs were turned. The cleaners filed within. We waited for full dark before lighting our headlamps and stooped together at a bed beneath a window, fingers finding the roots by feel as much as sight. A cloud slid over the moon near midnight, and our cones of light grew into little rooms of visibility. Then came the cut, a hair's breadth of gold, a seam drawn by a hand we could not see. Curtains parted a fraction. Nora and I froze and wore that radiance like a benediction. I felt the skin on my face tighten, knowing how lamp glass gets warm when a flame is brought near. It was my idea. I won't dodge that. We argued with gestured whispers about who would look. We made it a game. Rock, paper, scissors. And the game chose her. She leaned, set her fingers to the sill, and put her eye squarely to the slice. At first she was only still. Then she became a kind of fixture, breath shallow, lids wide, a look of attention so pure, it seemed a cruelty. I tried the small tricks first. Touch, then squeeze, then tug. Nothing. Her hands locked on the wood. I felt the first true cold then. The body's admission that it, at least, understands. When the light snapped out, the curtains drawn by someone or something within, she collapsed into me like a coat off a peg. We went down together in the grass. She came back, drifting, eyes dilated, mouth parted. I asked what she'd seen. She did not answer. She walked down the hill, as if continuing a conversation I could not hear. By morning, she had volunteered to join the offered. We did not speak much of the offered among ourselves. It is hard to give shape to a dread that has been furnished for you since infancy. Their ritual was simple in its physics. The two groups, the listening and the looking, made a living corridor to the porch. Daniel brought the chosen from camp. If no one stepped forward, he chose. Then they were prepared, as he put it. Silence was made permanent. The face was made to reveal. No words. I will not give you the craft of it. Believe me when I tell you, the body can be quieted in more ways than the mouth. The offered returned docile, heavy-lidded, and were led to the door. Daniel opened, ushered, withdrew, shut. We stood a while, at first with ceremony, then with habit. No one ever came back out. Sometimes adults volunteered, rarely one of us. You can guess which. I could not visit Nora all week. Guilt turns the ankles to glass. When Daniel asked me to assist on the night itself, I said yes, because saying no would have required me to say why. We found her alone. The others slipped to the edges, as if she thrummed. She had that light on her. You know the one. I had seen it on Daniel, and once on the face of a man who had solved a theorem, and then lived to regret it. She smiled when she saw him. He did not smile back. She lay down willingly. The air smelled of antiseptic and damp soil. I turned my head at the important moments and busied myself with basins and cloths. When it was done, she slept and woke like a swimmer, breaking the surface, coughing once, then calm. We gave her relief. She refused the second dose with a settled shake and rose. Daniel and I walked behind her, and the crowd parted. Her parents, two gardeners, signed to her with a panic I could feel in my teeth. She did not look. At the threshold, Daniel did his part. The door received her. We waited the customary hour, then another. By the fifth, only Daniel and I remained. He said he would leave me a while, and he did. I stood at the flower bed we'd been working the night of the window, the soil still loose under the pad of my thumb. You must believe me when I tell you that even there, after what I had helped to do, after what she had asked to become, I felt the old tug at the glass. The house hums at a frequency that finds the little soft hinge in you. The curtains were shut. I went down the slope, and halfway I looked back. There were letters on the pane, wet enough to catch the moon. From a distance they seemed black. I approached and the color rose through umber to a clean, arterial red. It was neat. The hand a little wavering, but legible. My name. And beneath it, two words in a grammar that made my stomach tighten. Daniel lies. Room. Evil. I left with him the next day. I don't know what I meant to do. Stay, confront, confess. Instead, I rolled from the backseat in town and ran. The buildings there shocked me. How they permit height as though height were harmless. When I looked back, he was watching me without surprise, the way a craftsman watches a tool he has worn out at last. He didn't follow. The rest is bureaucratic prose. Foster homes, the effort of catching up in a world that believes calendars are a kind of morality. The recurring trouble of explaining why your hands do not twitch to a ringing phone. They never found the place. Yet yesterday, no melodrama here, only the factual date. I was scouring Google Maps of the old forest for the 1000th futile time when I saw a pale, perfect circle of clearing with a small, dark geometry at its heart. The shingles were a pattern the eye learns once and keeps. The house. I told myself I would not go back. That was true when I said it. But truth, like any craft, has its tolerances. I've had years to consider Nora's face under that light. The way her attention fused her to a moment and then remade her. The message on the window is dried in me to something like a scab that will not lift. What did she see? What did Daniel call a house that she called a room? Why, among all the precise violences he made us understand, did he choose to lie about that? You will say, sensibly, that I owe myself the kindness of staying away. And perhaps I am still the gardener I was taught to be, drawn to edges, to borders where root meets rock. But understand this, at the bottom of a drawer, I keep the only proof that ever changed my mind. It is a square of rag I pocketed the night of Nora's preparation. A piece I used to blot a line at the corner of her mouth. The stain has browned. The weave stiffened. Along one edge there is an imprint, faint, as of a tiny seam pressed hard into cloth from the inside. It matches, to the millimeter, the bevel of the inner face of those house panes, the sort of bevel you only know by touch. The sort of touch you only learn by pressing your face to a crack of light for longer than any sane person would manage. I have the coordinates. I have a rented car. I have at last the understanding that fear is not an exit, but a corridor. If you don't hear from me in a week, burn this, will you? I will have been answered. And Daniel, whatever he is now, will owe me nothing.